Hello everyone, welcome to part 5. This is the stage we were at last time. You can see here we've now got the basic fascias and soffits along the front edge and a lovely trench across the garden. This connects the studio to the house where we can lay the electrical cable to get power to the studio. We'll look at that a bit more later on. Where we left off last time, we had the inner studs in place and had made a start on the ceiling. You can see here the ceiling is starting to come together and the inner stud is completely insulated. Here, running alongside the door, we've got the basis of the electrical cabling. This runs along the door, over the top, and to what will ultimately be the electricity box on the other side of the door. This will take the mains trunk cable from the house, running along that trench we saw earlier, and all of the electricity for the studio will come from a central fuse box located here to the left of the door. The cabling runs along the ceiling and around the walls in a trunk system which won't need to come through the walls themselves, so we should maintain good isolation. As we did with the stud walls, the noggins are going in to provide lateral support and to provide a place for the insulation to fit later on. Back outside, here is where we got to with the fascias and soffits, but unfortunately again we've been held up by bad light and bad weather. We're into October-November 2016 here, and in the UK at this time of year it gets dark at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which meant outside work was limited. Here's a long view from the back door of the house, giving you some sense of distance. Fortunately it's probably about the same distance again to the nearest neighbour. Here we've got the basis of the ventilation ducts running along the now finished ceiling frame. This will carry the air in and the air out, providing a steady circulation of the air. We have two paths here, one vent which carries the air in and another which carries the air out, both connecting to vents on the outside wall. Unfortunately, a soundproof room is an airtight room, but being a creature that requires oxygen, we have to make some compromises. Here we can see the passive air in vent. This is unpowered and just takes a steady trickle of air. On the opposite side is an active air out, which is powered and physically pulls the air out. This vent system provides 4 full room air changes per hour. Using special acoustic duct and sitting above the insulated ceiling, we shouldn't lose too much isolation because of this. Here you can see the vents being installed to the outside wall. One takes the air in, the other lets the air out. A small motion activated light will sit just here to the right of the door. Back inside you can see the cabling progressing well, but I want to take this opportunity to put a warning here. My dad is an electrical engineer and has worked all his life in that area, including as an electrician. This stage of the project is not something to be taken lightly and should not be attempted without the aid of somebody that really knows what they're doing. It's not a DIY friendly stage. If you're not fortunate enough to have somebody in your family or close friends that's a very skilled electrical engineer, please try and get a professional on board to help you with this. Here you can see all of the organised electrical cabling for the inside. These will run to things like the lights, the ventilation and the heating, which I'll show you later on. With that in place, we can insulate over it just like before. As the cabling that we just saw runs down the cavity in between the walls, the insulation can just sit in front of it. The cables themselves can just poke out through a small gap between the slabs and the stud. At this stage we can't do any more with the electrics until the internal drywall is in place. Now that the electrical cabling and ventilation ducts are in place, we can finish off the insulation. Here the ventilation ducts are just being fastened to the studs to prevent any movement, then we can insulate the ceiling just like we did with the studs. The drywall on the ceiling will attach directly to these studs and will hold the insulation in place, so unlike with the roof we don't need to put anything around the borders to hold the slabs in place. Now that the sun's come out, we can see the fully insulated room. Remember, what you're seeing here is the inside room. There's the air cavity, then the same insulation again on the outside studs. With the inside progressing nicely, it's now time to get the outside sealed. Here we're removing the polythene door in preparation for the door frame installation. We'll trial fit it first and then install it permanently once we're sure it all fits. Here we're just making sure that the waterproof membrane overlaps with the door seal to provide a watertight fit. For both the door and window we'll be using a 2-layer airlock system. So for the door there'll be a standard UPVC external door. This is similar to the front door you'd have on your house. There'll then be the air gap and then an internal heavy fire door. The outer door attaches to the outer stud and the inner door to the inner stud, maintaining isolation. Unfortunately, my camera died while we were fitting the door frame, so you can see it already trial fitted here. We'll install it permanently later on. For now, we're doing the same thing with the window. Having already prepared the window opening the same way we did with the door frame, we can now actually install the window frame permanently. Here we're installing the window sill, which will form a watertight seal along the bottom edge. We treat the bottom edge with multiple layers of silicone sealant before screwing it with permanent fixings. Then it's just a case of lifting it into position. With the window frame installed, we now return our attention to the door. We remove it from its trial fitting and treat it the same way we did with the window frame. Layers of silicone sealant work together with the construction of the base plate to provide a watertight seal. Things were going so well, and then I did something astoundingly stupid. Turns out the door frame is quite heavy, and when you open it when it's not secured, the door frame falls out. I am, after all, only a drummer. With the frame in place, the middle panel just slots into position. In just the same way, with the window frame in place, the glass panels can just slot into position. We're using incredibly heavy-duty acoustic glass. This is 2 layers of laminated glazing with argon gas in between. Remember, we'll also have a secondary layer of internal glazing the other side of the air gap. You place the panels in the frame, shim them in position, and then a seal is hammered around the outside to hold them firm. This can clip out if you ever need to replace the pane for any reason. For the same reason that we decided to have the window at all, the window has to open. There is nothing quite like fresh air for ventilation, especially on a hot day. This means that we also need to have internal glazing that opens in the same way, so we can access the outside window to open it. This also means there's a degree of flexibility with the building. Should I ever retire from drumming or sell the house, somebody could use this as an office without having to be stuck in a dark room. We'll leave it there for this episode. We've done quite a lot inside, and we'll look at finishing off the inside in the next episode, including the internal door, the internal glazing and the plasterboarding. We'll hopefully try and get the roof shingles on as well, if the weather clears up. Thanks for your responses so far on these videos. I'm really happy that some of you have found some ideas from this, and I look forward to seeing your projects as well. If you like my videos in general, please check out my Patreon page to help me keep doing more of them. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you on the next episode.